All right. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the OCD and Anxiety Show. My name's Matt Cotty, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker. And on this episode, we're going to talk about the nervous system when it comes to stress, anxiety, OCD, and really anything in that spectrum. So you're talking about panic attacks, you're talking about social anxiety, phobias, general anxiety, right? And even things like PTSD. So when we enter into a state of fight or flight, what's happening is our nervous system, right, which is broken up into two parts, the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. It is activating, right? So the sympathetic nervous system is our fight and flight. And when that nervous system is activated, all these things start happening in our body, right? Because essentially we're going into survival mode. And from a long-term perspective, this part of our body is amazing. It's fascinating what it can do. So you're gonna see blood pumped into the large muscle groups to help you run or fight harder, right? So essentially your muscles are going to get activated, as well as just a hyper awareness of threat. You're going to have your digestive system is going to be suppressed, as well as your reproductive systems, because your body's going into like, I need to survive right now. And then on the other side of that, you have your parasympathetic nervous system. And someone said this once, and I just really stuck with me, so just wanted to share it. And the way to remember between the two is like a parachute, right? It saves you, right? And so the parasympathetic nervous system is the rest and digest system, right? So the sympathetic is fight or flight, parasympathetic is rest and digest. Now, from a survival standpoint, our bodies are designed to go into fight or flight, right? From whenever there's a threat. But the thing is then we're designed to go back into the parasympathetic state. Right? We're not meant to live in a chronic state of stress and anxiety. And one of the new kind of challenges, I guess, that we're facing as humans is that most of our threats aren't outside anymore, right? Most of us, I mean, depending where you live in the world, and I just want to definitely take a moment to say, like, hey, look, just really hoping people in Ukraine, wishing you guys well, and really hoping that the conflict ends, and just wishing you all safety during this time, and just courage during this time. And so, but in a place in the world where you don't have an external conflict, right, and you don't have threat, a lot of us live, thankfully, in places where we don't have a lot of threats externally to us, animals, things like that. We live in houses. Yeah, we have running water, right? We have many of our basic needs met. And with that said, because of that, we don't have these threats that we're constantly getting into this fight or flight state about. But what's happening now is that we're shifting into what's called psychological stress. And this is from the book Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers by Dr. Robert Sapolsky. And it's one of the best books on stress that's really on the market, in my opinion. And he talks about this idea of psychological stress. And this is really this idea of our mind being able to conjure up ideas, what if thoughts, futuristic scenarios, or even past scenarios that are stressful, that actually put our body into that state of fight or flight, into that sympathetic nervous system, right? And this is the problem, because we can always be thinking about, the next thing, the next worrying about the next thing, the next terrible potential thing that could happen to us. And this puts our body into that state of the sympathetic nervous system, on a continual basis. And when that happens, the chronic stress in our body, it obviously can wear on us. So in order to activate the sympathetic or the parasympathetic response, obviously, what it's not necessarily about controlling your outside environment for the most part. And if there is outside environmental stress, usually it's pretty clear on what you need to do to start to get out of that. But with the psychological stress, this is really what I want to focus on in this episode, when we're in a state of psychological stress, we just get caught in these wheels. And what happens is, and this is really where you get, the broad spectrum of anxiety related disorders, whether it's general anxiety, OCD, PTSD, uh, social anxiety, panic attacks, right? So when we're talking about these disorders, what's happening is that the body is going into this sympathetic response and there's no actual threat present. That's why, it becomes a disorder, is because our body's going into this state and there's nothing actually happening. So in order to combat that and to really heal that, what we need to do, it's really about shifting into the parasympathetic. Now, yes, there are physical things that we can do, and I want to talk about a few of those in this episode. But really, the main thing that we need to focus on, and this is why we teach the AAA response, is when you're in with the thing about psychological stress, it really works as a loop. Okay, so you have a what if thought, it makes you anxious, and then we do a behavior to neutralize that possibility. So then we feel better. But then the problem is we reinforce the idea that that was actually dangerous. So our brain keeps producing the thought, we keep getting anxious, we keep doing behaviors, and we keep feeling relief, and this loop begins to build. And this can take on so many different variations that it doesn't really matter about what the variation that you're experiencing, right? So it doesn't matter what type of OCD you have, or if you have panic attacks or social anxiety, right? What it matters is that you understand the loop perspective, and you understand that when you're in this loop, you're getting activated into the sympathetic response, right? Or the sympathetic nervous system. So in order to get out of the loop, the first thing we have to, in order to get into the parasympathetic response or the nervous system, we have to break the loop. Okay, so that's step one of the recovery right there. And in order to break the loop, instead of focusing on the thoughts or the behaviors or what you're worrying about, it's really about breaking the behaviors that you're doing that are reinforcing the loop. Okay, and so at Restored Minds, we go through the AAA response, and that's really our primary tool for breaking, especially all the stuff we do in our mind, all the ruminating, the analyzing, the mental behaviors that we engage in. And then, and if you need more on that, or at least a start on that, right, we have a little guide for you down in the notes that you can click on and download, and it will at least get you started. And then obviously we have several different programs over at Restored Minds to help you really implement this into your life. But then there's these physiological things that we can do as well. And the first one that I want to talk about in today's episode is just this idea of breathing. Now, breathing, the reason I want to talk about it is it sounds simple, but it's something that most people don't take advantage of, and it's with us all the time. So I want to talk about a specific response to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. And so when we get into the sympathetic nervous system, right, our body's going into fight or flight. And what happens is we get short breaths that are from the chest. So we breathe in, we're getting this quick oxygen and kind of activating that system. But when we're in the rest and digest phase, or we're in the parasympathetic state, we're going to be breathing much differently. Like you think about how you breathe when you sleep, right? Or when you first wake up, it's just kind of it's very relaxed. So one of the things that we have to do is we have to send a message to our brain that we are safe. Okay. And breathing is one of the best ways to do that, because we can consistently do that, and it's consistently within our control. So the first thing that I want to talk about with breathing is really breathing into your belly. And when you're in the sympathetic state, what happens is as you breathe in, your stomach retracts, but that's actually not how it's supposed to happen. When you breathe in, we really want our stomach to fill up, right? And like push out. And then when we breathe out, our stomach retracts in, and we want to get this full breath system working. And so that's the first thing. And then the second thing I want to talk about is the idea of the pace that you should breathe at. So there's two different thoughts, and I want to share both. So the very minimal that you should be doing is an equal amount of time breathing in and an equal amount of time breathing out, preferably about 5 seconds each. Okay, so breathing in and breathing out. And you can do that with me on the episode, right? I mean, if you're listening or watching, right? I mean, just focusing on that 5 in, 5 out, 5 in, 5 out, and kind of anchoring into those numbers as you're breathing. Again, and here's what we're doing. We're not doing this to get rid of anxiety, right? We're doing this to essentially show our brain, hey, like we're not in danger. And your brain and body knows what to do. Super, super intelligent. It's just about us showing, that, hey, we're not in danger. So really breathing in that pace as just like a very consistent way of breathing. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is if you're really activated, we really want to trigger, and I'll talk about this more in a future episode, the vagus nerve. And this work is really interesting and kind of like a newer thought on the whole parasympathetic. But really, in order to activate, what we want to do is we want to breathe in for 4 seconds and then breathe out for either 6 or 8. So we want to breathe out longer than we're breathing in. And this is going to help, again, activate that parasympathetic system. So just nice breathing, right? And then you hold for, get to 4, and then you breathe out. And then again, try to get to 6 or even 8 seconds. So a nice slow breath, and only through your nose, ideally. Okay. And if you're doing this, again, you're just slowing your breathing down, which again is slowing your body down. It's getting more oxygen into your system. And you're also showing your brain like, hey, I'm safe now. I'm safe. I'm like, behaviorally, you're doing that. So your brain is going to be forced to challenge like, hey, maybe we don't need to fight or flight. Right. And again, it's eventually going to calm your system down. And this is obviously with the idea that you're not doing any behaviors that are reinforcing that loop that I was talking about. So just understanding these two nervous systems, or these two aspects of your nervous system, should I say, can be really helpful because you can start to understand what's going on in your body. See, with anxiety and stress, a lot of times we get so caught up in the feeling we're experiencing that we are just reacting to that. And instead, right, what we want to do is really be aware of what we're experiencing, right? So in the last episode, I talked about awareness. Just being aware of what we are feeling, what we're experiencing. Our minds are racing, our chest is, heart's pumping, our body just feels nervous, right? Like aware of these feelings. And then from there, you can kind of like, oh, okay, my sympathetic nervous system is activated. Okay, am I doing anything that's keeping that loop going? Oh yeah, I'm ruminating. Okay, and then we want to use the tools there to make sure we're not engaging in those behaviors. And then now it's like, okay, now I need to just calm my body down. I need to sit, right? And the first thing that you should do is just breathe. I know it sounds so simple, and in many ways it is, but it's something most people never do, right? Never really focus on. They might breathe for a little bit and it's like, I'm still feeling anxious, and then give it up. It's like, it's about that practice and awareness, and implementing that consistently will be very helpful when it comes to navigating these periods of stress and anxiety in your life. So I just want to talk about the nervous system, and what this is going to do is we're going to open up a new series here really on talking about the body and what we can do with our body when it comes to stress and anxiety as well. Because I feel like, when we talk about stress and anxiety, it kind of gets compartmentalized into mental health only. And I don't know why, because I've made that mistake as well as a therapist. And even on my own journey, I'm really starting to learn more and more and more about the connection with the body, and whether it's myofascial work, just where you carry stress in your body, right? How you carry it, how your body releases stress, and things you can do to do that. So I just really wanted to open up a series on, talking about the body and stress. And the first thing I obviously wanted to start with was just identifying the two aspects of your nervous system and helping you understand that. So hopefully it was helpful. And for those of you that are looking for help with OCD, anxiety, and stress-related conditions, especially the psychological stress, really please head over to Restored Minds, click the little link below. We have several programs for you to help you wherever you are in your journey. And again, it's what we do every day. So we're here to support you. So thank you so much for hanging out today. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I look forward to continuing this series with you this week. All right. Talk to you soon.